Hello! So, me again. I'm back for the second little episode, I suppose, if you can call it that, of this little vlog that I'm doing. So, today I thought that I would talk about a couple of the books that I've read that are helping me along in this journey. I really enjoyed these books, so I thought it might be worth giving you a little review. I am a bit of a nerd, so bear with me because I love books. I think books are great and I may overshare just slightly. So my camera's looking really weird today. I don't know what it is. Don't have like any filters on this, but must be the heat. It is like 31 degrees outside. It is hot. So hopefully we survive this. But yes, let's jump right in. The first book that I wanted to talk about was the first one that I read this year, and that is this one, The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Beep. It's by Manson, and it is probably one of the most life-changing books I've ever read. It is really good. Puts things in perspective. So if you are an overthinker like me, who runs through every single possibility that may or may not happen in your head before you make any decision, this is the book for you, okay? So Manson is very straight up throughout this. He is very honest. He shares a lot of his own personal challenges, lots of anecdotes in this book, and it puts life in perspective. As strange and, you know, convoluted as that sounds, he does a really good job of making you think about what's important to yourself, which is really the aim of this book. And that's something that I think a lot of people struggle with, because Mark talks about how what's important to you can actually change over your lifetime. Like, it doesn't have to stay stagnant. You change, your circumstances change. There is no reason for your values and your expectations not to also change. So that was the one part of this book that I really enjoyed, is challenging your values, which is not as controversial as it sounds. Values not in the traditional sense of the word, but more your life objectives and your goals and your expectations of yourself and of others, which was a really big one, because he talks about those around you and the circumstances and how they change, and, you know, taking things to heart and setting your store by things that are out of your control, if that makes sense. So when we're measuring ourselves against metrics that we cannot possibly control or handle or anything like that, you have no influence over it, chuck it aside. You don't need it. It's just going to make you sad. It's going to make you feel out of control. And that I really enjoyed about this, because it made me reevaluate. I'm going somewhere with this, business related. So I think it's fair to say, quite a perfectionist. I have a really high standard for myself and a really high standard for other people. If I would expect it of myself, I would expect it of other people. So this book allowed me to think about, is it my problem? No, let it go. Is it something I can control? Yes, sweet, keep it. And that is what kickstarted my journey into business. Now, the reason I say this is because working a 9 to 5, you are not really in control of what you're doing. You are always at the mercy of someone else who's deciding things for you, which may or may not be the right thing, depending on what that choice is. So it made me think a lot about, what do I want to do? Is this where I want to be? Are my values stuck in the past? Is making money more important to me than growing myself and growing what I want and my passion projects? And eventually the answer that I came to was no, it's not. I only live once, you know, I am a millennial. It made me more comfortable stepping out of, but they don't challenge you. And if it doesn't challenge you, it doesn't change you. That's not mine, by the way. So, but yeah, highly recommend this book. I will link it in the little description box so that you can know where to find it. I've got mine on a Kobo e-reader, which is fab because it's waterproof. But yeah, highly recommend. Next one. Okay, so my next must read is this one, GIRLBOSS by Sophia Amoruso, I believe is how you pronounce her name. This one was really interesting, primarily because it's sort of an anti-business book, I guess you could call it. It is very autobiographical. It's about her life. It's not necessarily business tips, but it is about getting out of your comfort zone and about doing what's right for you. So she talks about how she was never really a school person, I suppose you could call it, and the challenges she's faced and the job she's had and how all of that worked together and led her up to founding her company. I won't spoil it too much for you, but I found this very interesting reading because I believe that Nasty Gal was going into liquidation when this, as I was reading this. There was a lot of press around how the business had failed and how she's got this empire, I suppose, built around GIRLBOSS and herself and her achievements when her business actually failed, which I thought was very, very interesting because it's all subjective and you can still be successful overall even when a project doesn't work. So Sophia has actually spoken out about that, and she's talked about how it was a rebrand for her, which works in nicely with the next book I'm going to talk about. But her passion project is GIRLBOSS, where she sort of, you're reading the book, you get the feeling she accidentally fell into Nasty Gal, and that's the way she phrases it a lot as well. It's very frank. It's very much her personality, I feel. I don't know her, obviously, but it's written from a very personal perspective, and there are really good, a few nuggets in there to help people during their process, to know that, you know what, you might feel ridiculous and you might walk into a room and be the person who knows the least in there, but if you are passionate and if you work hard, then you can make something of yourself. So GIRLBOSS, very interesting read. My sister actually listened to the audiobook version of this and she really enjoyed it. So yeah, I think it's a great one. It's been turned into a Netflix series, so if you're not a reader and you're not a listener, if you're a watcher, that could be something interesting as well. I am not entirely sure how accurate the Netflix version is or how true it stays to the book, but yeah. Third one, and I'm nearly finished with yakking, is this one. It's called Crushing It by Gary, I'm going to butcher his last name, I apologize, but Vaynerchuk, it might be. I do apologize, Gary, if you're watching this. I hate when people pronounce my name wrong, and I hate pronouncing other people's wrong, so I'm sorry. But anyway, this is a fantastic book. Ironically, I'm not quite finished yet, but what I've got so far out of this is next level. This book is really, I don't even know how to describe this book without saying just go read it. It talks about things that you never hear in business. It talks about caring, which it resonates with me. I was like, Gary preaching to the choir. So I really enjoy that. He is very honest about his methods. And what I really like about him is you don't have to buy his book to find out about his ideas and the way he would suggest that you do things. You can watch his YouTube videos. You know, he gives away, and he talks about this, he gives away a lot of information and content for free, which is just about unheard of in the world today. I mean, everyone wants to sell you something. So the fact that, you know, I went and bought the book of my own accord, having looked up good business books, and learnt about him as I was reading this book. So the one thing that I like most about it is the caring aspect of it, but he also is so thorough. He literally steps you through social media, which, yeah, might be a millennial, but technology can sometimes be public enemy number one for me. It's not always the easiest to use, I know that, and there are so many things you can do with technology. I know it sounds like a real whiny first world problem, but it's true. There's just unlimited opportunities when it comes to social media, and learning all of that can be quite overwhelming. So the fact that he has taken the time to literally step out, I'm just looking up the chapters, he has stepped out, like, this is just amazing. Musically, Snapchat, Twitter, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, podcasts, and voice first. Like, that is just insane for someone who is in my view, professional in the business world, to be giving that much content and suggestions to just anyone who wants to read, anyone who wants to watch a YouTube video. It is crazy, but very, very worthwhile reading. If you are someone who would prefer to watch, I would suggest the YouTube videos, but just a book that's going to change your life. Said it. It's done. Talks about, you know, you've got to work hard, which it sounds so obvious, but I think there are a lot of people who get out there and don't think about that. He covers like the basics, I think, in the first half of the book, and the second half of the book is really a how-to guide, which will be invaluable to anybody who wants to do something like this, who wants to start their own business, who wants to go to the next level, because it's not just about helping people who are starting out. He also talks about helping people who are trying to push their business to becoming more successful, to, you know, reaching their goals, which is where I think the three of these books work really nicely together, which is why I wanted to talk about them together. When you take the first book, Not Giving a F, it helps you pick what your metrics are, what your values are. And then from there, when Gary talks about, you know, work hard, you have to choose, you know, which metrics you are going to prioritize, and one of your metrics should be your project, your business, whatever it is that you're doing. And if you value your family or your friends, then you're going to have to spend time with them. And it sounds so straightforward, but the two books together highlight that you don't have to screw up your relationships. You don't have to, you know, never see your family, or be, you know, nocturnal and don't come out to family events or whatnot to be successful. You just have to prioritize. You just have to choose what's important. GIRLBOSS, Sophia Amoruso's book, was really interesting to me, and she embodied a lot of the things that you read about in Gary's book and Crushing It, because she talks you through her process, she steps you through bit by bit. I found most difficult is just the how, like where do you start, because it's so overwhelming. And Gary's book is a fantastic guide for that. So in the past, I'm gonna say week, because I've been reading this for about 2 weeks now. In the past week, I've kicked off my website, I have started my YouTube, I have set up my Instagram properly, I have got my stock images for my website, I've sorted all these things purely because of the processes that these books have suggested, and particularly Crushing It by old GV. We call him a GV. Don't want to butcher his name again. So I highly recommend. If you've got any further suggestions for me, please feel free to tell me. I'll read anything within reason. So yeah, those are what I wanted to talk to you about today. That's me. See you next time. Let me know of any suggestions. Bye!